Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Claire Donovan, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Livingston County. Welcome to our online candidate forum for the 6th and 5th districts of the Livingston County Commission candidates in the August 6th primary election. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that promotes voter education and participation. We host candidate forums and publish the online voter guide, vote411.org, to help voters make informed choices. Now, let's meet our moderator, Shirley Jackson, and hear from the candidates. Thank you.
And thank you, Claire. And good evening. Like Claire said, my name is Shirley Jackson, and I'll moderate tonight's forum. It's my honor to introduce 3 candidates running in the August primary for Livingston County Commissioners for Districts 5 and 6. Paul Geissner is running in District 5. Heather Williams is running in District 5. Tara Black-Pearson is running in District 6. Candidate Jay Drick, running in District 5, was invited but did not respond. And candidates Matthew McCallihan and Roger Deaton, both running in District 6, were invited but did not respond. The League and the general public thanks you, candidates, for your participation this evening. We greatly appreciate it. Before we begin to hear from you, candidates, it's important that listeners know the layout of what's going to transpire. In the interest of fairness, candidates will be timed, and the order in which they will respond will rotate. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to give an opening statement, up to 2 minutes to answer each question, and up to 2 minutes to give a closing statement. Questions were gathered from the general public. Okay, I think listeners would now like to hear from the candidates. So we're just going to start with our opening statements. And Mr. Geissner, would you please start by giving your opening statement?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. My name is Paul Geissner, and I live in Marion Township with my wife and 2 rescue dogs. And we love it here in Livingston County. It's beautiful, beautiful place. We love the nature, we love the people. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and so I work in the energy industry as well. I'm running for Livingston County Commissioner because I'm frustrated with the dysfunction that the current commission has and the challenges that they are not solving and the new challenges they're creating of their own accord. As an engineer, I like to look at problems as as things that we can pull apart and work on together and solve them. And I would be honored to serve as Livingston County Commission and bring my problem solving and hardworking mindset to bear. So thank you so much to everybody. I appreciate it.
And thank you. Candidate Pearson, may we have your opening statement, please?
Good evening. I'm Tara Black-Pearson. I'm 51 years old. I'm running in District 6, which is primarily Genoa Township and a little bit of Brighton Township and Osceola Township. I have lived in Livingston County my entire life, as have my parents and in-laws, my siblings, and my children. So I'm happy to say that we are a generational family, and we absolutely love it. That's why we never left. And I am running for commissioner because I as well am frustrated with the dysfunction that I see occurring on the Board of Commissioners. I also agree that they are creating problems and not solving problems effectively with common sense. And I believe that with my knowledge of the community, with my background as a full-time attorney and a lot of other positions I've done, that I would be a great asset to the board, and I would certainly act in a rational, common sense manner. I, as an attorney, also.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your time is up.
That's okay.
Thank you. Now, Candidate Williams, would you please give your opening statement?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, members of the Livingston County League of Women Voters. My name is Heather Williams. I am a candidate for the Livingston County Board of Commissioners, 5th District, which includes the city of Howell and Marion Township. I also am running because I am frustrated with what the current commission is doing to our county. The Board of Commissioners' primary responsibility is to set priorities and develop an annual budget. I worked as a loan officer for several years and believe that that experience would be very beneficial when helping to develop common sense, effective county budgets. I also work very well with people from different organizations, and I am a good listener. Since 2020, Livingston County Commissioners have placed increased scrutiny on the county health department. Yet none of our current commissioners has experience in healthcare field. I paid my way through college working as a certified nursing assistant, so my election would correct that shortcoming. Under Michigan law, county commissioners are responsible for funding and overseeing many departments. And as a mother on the Board of Commissioners, I would be able to fill the gap that's not currently, there's no moms, there's no one representing the children, and that's definitely affecting their take on the courts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now that we've had the 3 opening statements, we're on to question number 1. And we're going to start the rotation. And so candidate Pearson, you will answer first, followed by candidate Williams, and then by candidate Geissner. Here's question number 1. What's happening in your district that's motivating your decision to run for a seat on the Livingston County Commission?
What is motivating me, I think, is more broad. I'm not happy with the way the entire board is functioning. I think that it's not effective for multiple districts, not just my own. The way that that's affecting my district, which as well as every other district, is the failure of collaboration between the officials. Not relying upon department heads, the people that we have put in place as the professionals, second guessing them, making partisan decisions for improper reasons, wasting time and effort on advisories and reports, again, things that second guess the people that we have put in place as professionals, and not properly allocating funds where it is needed, only on departments that I think that are considered voter friendly. So I want to help my community. I've lived in the same township, literally on the same road my entire life, just in a different house. So I love my township, but my goals are more countywide, just to be more effective for all of the residents.
Okay, thank you. Now, candidate Williams, will you please answer the question?
What has motivated me to run for county commissioner is the dysfunction, the calls that come into my home regularly from very frustrated constituents about what the current board is doing and not doing. Yes, speaking with department heads, not nitpicking them. There's a large gap or lack of communication. They're not putting themselves in the shoes of their constituents. The courts, for example, without a mom on the board, and moms are usually the ones that represent the children, little is being done about the turnaround time and the lack of functioning that the courts are facing right now. And I have spoke with employees of the court, and they tell me that they're working 70-hour plus work weeks to try to get their dockets handled. And when the commission is withholding funds, that's very frustrating. And I talk with so many moms locally who are in that same position. And I have to ask myself, is this board speaking with the people who are stuck in the courts? And I did hear someone ask this Board of Commissioners, how many of you have a case currently before the courts? None of them do. So withholding funds from different departments and not having things work as they should doesn't seem to bother them. But when the taxpayers are paying for two sides of a lawsuit, it never should have gotten to this point. And it's something that they need to do their job as a commissioner and keep these different entities functioning for the community. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, candidate Geissner, would you please answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to echo what my fellow candidates are saying. You know, the dysfunction at a broader level of the county is motivating my run. The courts in particular is a big issue. I think also at a broad level, the lack of transparency we see with this board of commissioners is just very frustrating, right? It's sometimes it's hard to know why they're making the decisions they're making. And in some cases, I think that reflects a lack of integrity of, you know, they're not willing to be forthcoming with their motivation. So I find that really challenging. But to get a little more specific in terms of the district, so I'm running to represent the city of Howell and Marion Township. And I've heard from a lot of people in the city of Howell that, you know, they'd like to be able to get around the community a little bit easier, right? They'd like the roads to be better maintained, right? And so I think we need to be focused on the roads and ensure we have adequate infrastructure for all of our community members, whether you live in the city of Howell or you live in Marion Township or rural townships. But we also need to explore how we can expand public transportation in this community, right? You know, there's a lot of people that are dependent on LETS, veterans, young people, elderly people, and LETS is a great service. I think it's really, really impressive that we have it in our community, but we can do more. We could build a fixed route, a bus route from Howell to Brighton. We could expand other public transportation options for commuters going to Washington County or Lansing. And so I think I'm hearing that from a lot of people in the community, and it's coming from businesses as well, right? Businesses want to be able to get their employees to work, you know, and they want also, you know, just affordable housing as well, right? There's a lot of different challenges that we're facing in communities such as Howell, and it feels like there's really not much, you know, effort going on at the county commission level to work on these really difficult challenges. So, thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much. We are now going to question number 2, and candidate Williams, you will be answering it first. So the question is, how would you describe the demographics of your commissioner district, and what do you identify as their top concerns? Pick one of these concerns and share how or what steps you would take to resolve it.
The demographics of my district are families. And having looked at the percentages, you know, it's mom, dad, and a couple kids. And I think I've probably already addressed this or touched on it, but from speaking with folks, and I'm surprised that the commissioners don't see this. It's very evident on social media that the number one concern is the courts. That's being held up and that taxpayers are paying two sides of the lawsuit. So I think that to break that down, like what we should do about it is we need to fund them. We need to stop paying for two sides of a lawsuit. And I don't think that that's fair at all to the taxpayers. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, candidate Geissner, would you please answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the demographics between the city of Howell and Marion Township are a little different. You know, Marion Township is a little more rural. City of Howell is a little bit lower income. And I know I started talking about public transportation, and I think that's one of you know, one of the top concerns. But I also want to talk about affordable housing. I think a lot of people don't think about this, but you know, where are the people that work in the restaurants in Livingston County? Where are they living? A lot of times they're still living with their parents. And I think we really need to focus on expanding affordable housing in our community. And I think we can still do that without compromising you know, what makes Livingston County so great. You know, everybody appreciates the wide open spaces we have, the natural resources. I definitely treasure those things, but I think we can focus on building housing, where the infrastructure already exists, right? Where we have major roads like along Grand River, and the infrastructure like water and sewer systems to support that. So I think, as commissioner, I would like to work with, the city of Howell and other communities along those major thoroughfares and try to really encourage those development and redevelopment, right? There's a lot of, vacant, property in some cases. And I think that we could really explore creating housing that would allow anybody who wants to live in Livingston County, they can, right? And particularly people who are working here already and they're commuting from out of county. That's wearing down our roads. That's, wasting people's time. So that's something, it's not just a Livingston County issue, right? This is a statewide, nationwide issue, affordable housing, but I'm definitely hearing that from a lot of people in the community as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Now, candidate Pearson, can we hear your response, please?
Yes, certainly. My district has many facets of it. The Genoa Township, Brighton Township areas, more rural, more big properties, wide apart homes. And then obviously you take the Genoa Township portion that goes down Grand River, which is all commercial, completely different demographics, completely different needs or desired accommodations for those people. And then you head back up to Osceola and you're getting into the subdivisions. So there's a lot of different needs I don't want to say needs, a lot of different perspectives in my district. But in talking to people in my district, I have heard a lot of the same comments they are a concern about senior living, senior services, mental health services, and of course the lawsuit with the courts that everyone is paying for. I am not in favor at all of the lawsuit, and I think that I know a lot more about the inner workings of the court than anyone that made that decision to deny their funding. So I would certainly like to see an end to that. But when it comes to the senior services and the mental health services, that is something that I would like to tackle with some more fair budgetary decisions. Funding for all of our departments should be equal. Funding for all of our departments should be a priority. Not just funding departments that will get you votes. So I actually am also concerned about the mental health services and the senior services.
Okay, thank you. I am just about ready to read question number 3, and candidate Geissner, you will be the first one to answer it. Is there anything that you would recommend for the board to improve collaboration with the county departments when conducting the business of the county commission?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a balance between trusting the expertise of the county, the heads of the departments, and relying on your own judgment and skills. I think right now the county commissioners are a little bit tipped in favor of trusting their own expertise over the expertise of say the director of the county health department. It's a little concerning. I think we overall need to I think have a broad cast a broader net in terms of receiving input from the community overall. So I think when it comes to collaboration between the Board of Commissioners and the departments, it needs to be an open process. Like I was saying, transparency needs to be first and foremost in all government proceedings. And I think that's a hard goal, but we need to aspire to that. And yeah, we need to solicit broader input from the community, right? We need to understand how they view the effectiveness of the county departments and work collaboratively, like the question says, to address those, right? So I feel like right now that's severely lacking at the county level. We just don't have a lot of engagement with the community, and we don't really get that type of input. So that's what I would like to see the county commissioners and the department heads kind of work together to implement a more robust feedback process from the community. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Pearson, could we please have your answer?
Yes, thank you. I agree that the first step to collaboration is trusting your department heads and listening to their input, not second guessing them, and certainly not thinking that you are the expert in the room. We have these department heads for a reason, and we're not taking their advice, we're not respecting them, and we're certainly not creating a high morale throughout the departments, even with the employees. So that is step one. A big problem I see is also fact checking. I hear statements made at commission meetings that are not based upon fact. And I think that statements like that are made to inflame people. And that's exactly what happens. Statements are made, they get people riled up, and they're entirely not true. So fact checking, and I think that goes hand in hand with transparency. Be honest, but also be transparent, because I also think that there are a lot of, I guess we could say, backdoor deals going on before people even walk into the commission boardroom, and that's a problem. And I wanted to point out, with regard to collaborating with other officials, I've actually contacted officials in my district to introduce myself and say, hey, if I'm commissioner, tell me, what can I do to help you? What's your number? And more than one of those people told me that they had never been asked that by a commissioner before, and that's a problem. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Williams, would you please answer the question?
Yes, I agree that the inflammatory statements are definitely being made to build a following. And you have to wonder why. It certainly doesn't yield results. And I have found the same, that in speaking, I have been speaking with department heads that they have said, boy, it would be refreshing, not something they've seen recently, for the commissioners to reach out to them and say, what do you need? Because they know the inner workings of the department. They're being paid already by the taxpayers to fill that role. Why would we ignore their advice? So yes, to speak with the department heads, and instead of grandstanding and inflaming, working to get the job done, to read the packets that they have of what they gather the information and work to get it done to keep everything rolling. And I think when you're locking down facets of the county, it's more to gain attention for the board than it is to meet the need of the taxpayers. And that's doing a lot of damage to Livingston County. And we don't want Livingston County to have the reputation that so many counties around us do have of being very corrupt. And we don't want that to happen here. And that's why the transparency needs to be there. And we need to be working for the taxpayers. Thank you.
And thank you. Our next question is going to be answered first by candidate Pearson. And question number 4 is, Livingston County has 3 specialty courts: the drug court, intensive treatment mental health court, and veterans treatment court. Do you think these courts are a success, and would you support funding in the budget for staffing to keep them going? Explain your reasoning.
Yes, I am actually very familiar with the specialty courts, and they've been going on for many years, and in the past they've been very successful. It really is a wonderful program for people that qualified, to get them out of the court system and address the underlying concerns, which in a lot of criminal cases is mental health that leads to substance abuse, that leads to other behaviors. They are great programs. They have different funding available to them through the state, and they have to provide certain data to the state to get that funding. Do I think that they are currently successful? I have heard feedback that indicates to me that they are not near as successful as they have been in the past. And I've attempted to get some information about the programs, and I wasn't successful in getting information about the programs. So when it comes to providing funding for staffing to keep these programs going, first off, they are already funded by grants through the State Court Administrator's Office. But if I was to provide additional funding, which they are wonderful programs, but I would put stipulations in there with regard to required feedback and transparency. So again, we can stay on top of the successful management and running of these programs because they are there to rehabilitate our residents.
Okay, thank you. Now, candidate Williams, will you please answer the question?
So I don't have as much knowledge as Tara on this subject. So this is where I would use what I was taught, that no one knows everything, but you need to know who to ask. And this is where we would talk to department heads. We would talk to those within the court. And yes, the idea of stipulations that, we need the transparency. If you want funding, there needs to be transparency. We need to see why it isn't as effective as it was, but we certainly want to be rehabilitating, our members of Livingston County. And so if they were successful in the past, what do we need to do to make them successful again? Thank you.
And thank you. Now, candidate Geissner, would you please answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the privilege of attending Judge Michael Hattie's retirement celebration, and there were many personal testimonies about the success of these programs, particularly the drug court. Saved lives is what the first-hand accounts were saying, and so I believe the justice system is very complicated and is difficult to navigate. But these programs that provide more direct and personal attention to the acute needs that people have, I think are really, really important for, ensuring that people aren't just trapped in the justice system again and again. So, yes, I do believe these programs have been a success, and I would support funding, for them. And I haven't talked as much as the other candidates about, the court disputes, that the lawsuit that's going on right now between the commissioners and the courts. And I think it's just, it's really, really frustrating because it's a major distraction from a lot of the great work the courts are doing. And, it does directly impede their ability to do both their statutory duties and, these other specialty courts. And, yes, there are other funding sources, and I think totally supportive of all the possible, funding streams that we can take advantage of. But we should definitely be looking at, how are these programs impacting people, like looking at the data and ensuring that we're continuing to find ways to make people's experience with the justice system better and successful, and not trapping them in a cycle of being in prison. So that's just not it's not good for taxpayers. It's not good for the individual. It's very expensive to put people in prison. So I think these programs are very, very essential. Thank you.
And thank you. We are now going to go on to question number 5. And candidate Williams, you will be the first one to answer this one. The question is, would you support the recommendations of the Livingston County Master Plan that may require increased funding to address public transportation and ensure safe pathways for biking and walking needs in Livingston County? Please explain why or why not.
I am never quick to jump to if the funding is raising taxes. I think that's one of the things that draws folks to Livingston County is the lower taxes. And I think that Livingston County has a lot to offer in biking and walking paths. And so I don't think raising taxes to add more is the way to go. And this is where I would be talking with those who know more on the subject, and if SEMCOG is something that could be brought in to help with that, and I know that that applies with our roads, that a lot of times it's not something that's gonna come directly from funding from the county, but that we should, I don't see our Board of Commissioners working with SEMCOG to bring some of that funding into our county. And actually, I believe that our county currently is underrepresented to SEMCOG to help bring in funding for some of those things. So if we can add to our county's bike paths and walkways and transportation needs without raising taxes, then absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Geissner, would you please respond?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I already mentioned my support for public transportation previously, but I just want to echo that, this is not something that the county needs to fund all by itself, right? There's incredibly huge amounts of state and federal money that we're essentially leaving on the table at this point. The county spends 0.1% of its total budget on transportation, 0.1%. That's very, very small amount. It's just a drop in the bucket. If we increase that just marginally, we would access, 5-6-fold federal and state dollars that could really make it doable to get these bus routes that I mentioned, like something along Grand River between Howell and Brighton, then potentially also connecting up other commuter routes towards Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County. I think it's very, very doable, and at a very, very small increase in general funds money that the commissioners would have to allocate. So, and then on the bike paths and walking paths, I mean, it's essential, right? I think Livingston County, one of the things we love about it the most is the beautiful environment, the natural resources we have here. And if we're not able to enjoy that, through biking or walking, that's just a major disservice to the residents here. And so, yeah, certainly I don't want to overcommit the county to things it can't fund. I mean, absolutely not. But we should be looking at great ways to expand the resources we have for residents, and actively pursuing all the grants, funds that we can. And I think just having the commissioners make a statement saying that this is something they support, right? Standing for, cyclists as as important parts of our community, and that they deserve to have resources that meet their needs. So I think just the commissioner stating publicly that we're working on this and seeking grant funds, that would go a long way towards solving the challenge. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, Candidate Pearson, would you please answer the question?
I agree that there are funds available that we are not taking advantage of. So it is not a burden that should be put on the county. I also believe that Livingston County has a vast amount of recreation available to people. Bike paths, walking, hiking, boating, and that recreation and rural nature of our county is a huge draw to people. It makes people stay here. It makes people come here. And you have to temper the public transportation issue with, why do we live and stay here in the first place? And it's because of what the rural, close nature of our community. So I really think that needs to be tempered with what is in line with the traditions and goals of the county. And if that's increased public transportation, there are ways to do it that will not turn our wonderful county into another metropolis. So that is my fear, with the talks of increasing all of these things, is putting them into place in a way that is not really what the residents want and not in line with our local values and changing the dynamic of our community.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to be going on to question 6, and Candidate Geissner, you will be answering it first. Question 6 is Michigan Lakes and Streams reports that Michigan is the only state without a statewide sanitary code, meaning it is left to local governments to decide whether to regulate septic systems. What is the appropriate role of the county in this matter?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I was actually having a conversation with one of the current county commissioners recently, and he told me that the role of the county commission is 85% budgetary and 15% policy. And so I think this is one of those areas where that kind of falls into that 15% policy, where we should enforce reasonable standards. Nothing crazy, nothing that is difficult to manage and too much of an undue burden. But certainly we need a good standard for our septic systems. We've been talking about how great our natural resources are. If we allow polluted water to flow from septic systems that aren't functioning properly, that seriously can jeopardize our water that's so important to us. And there's other threats to our water as well, such as PFAS and other pollutants. And so, these are just issues that we're not seeing discussed at the county commission level. So, I think there's a reasonable discussion to be had, but we're not even having that discussion, right? So we need to be prioritizing these types of issues of how do we keep our air clean? How do we keep our water clean? How do we hold people accountable that are not doing that? And so yeah, overall, I am definitely supportive of the county working with a reasonable process, probably with the Drain Commission and other appropriate stakeholders to come up with an appropriate standard here. Thank you.
And thank you. Now, can we please hear this from candidate Pearson, your answer, please?
Yes. So our local septic and well systems are managed through the health department, and that's a process that you have to go through when you are getting your permits through the building departments. So there are regulations, and that's what those departments are there for. I agree that there should be standards that should apply to not just the initiation of these permits and services, but also in the maintenance of them. But the Board of Commissioners is not a legislative body. We can recommend that the health department make stronger policies, and I think our health department does a very good job with their policies. But to get everybody on board with a statewide sanitary code, I would certainly not be opposed to that, but that's a state issue. That's nothing that the County Board of Commissioners really has any influence on, other than making the recommendation that the health department contact the state to make a statewide policy. I agree that there needs to be standards, and they should be the same depending on your location. But I just don't see, beyond a discussion with the health department and the Drain Commission, that's where we need to rely on our department heads and the people that we have put in place to handle the issues within their departments and to advocate for these higher statewide issues.
Okay, thank you. And candidate Williams, can we have your response, please?
Yes. The appropriate role of the county in this matter is, of course, to make sure that we aren't contaminating. And I think we're doing a great job of that. And the health department has a good handle on it. And I think that it's best to keep it at the county level and not try to fix something that's not broken and risk it going to the state level, right? Because it should be handled locally because of every area being different. We have, with all of the lakes here, the rivers, and as a member of Farm Bureau myself, I can tell you with this rural county, that is something that Farm Bureau looks at often and thoroughly as well, not just from septics, but from the farmers, any type of runoff. So I think that a great job is currently being done of looking after the cleanliness of our water. And I do think it is best to keep it local and to definitely defer to our department heads and make sure we're not fixing something that isn't broke. Thank you.
And thank you. We are now on to our last question of this evening, and it'll be answered first by candidate Pearson. The question is, a number of your voters are tired of partisan and political stalemate. Do you think the county commission as a whole serves the best interest of all county voters? If so, provide examples of how that occurs. And if not, why not?
I agree with the number of voters that are tired of partisan and political stalemate. And I think that that is a huge problem on our Board of Commissioners right now. Partisan decisions, personal agendas that, again, create problems and don't solve problems. And I know that we've talked about this a lot, but a prime example of that is what's going on with the lawsuit between the courts and the county. It should have never gotten to that point. Statements that were made when the decisions to make these budgeting cuts to the courts, when statements were made that weren't true, but yet they were being clung to as some sort of gospel because they heightened emotions. So I agree. I'm tired of it. And do I think they're working for the voters as a whole? Definitely not. Now, there are 9 commissioners, and there are commissioners that I see try their best and that will counter statements made by another group of commissioners that tend to not rely on facts. But as a whole, they are absolutely not serving the county voters. There are too many of them that are concerned with their own personal agendas, whatever their little partisan issues are, wanting to keep themselves in their seat, wanting to use this position to get to a higher position. It's not effective. It's not good for the community. And it is a huge disservice that I would love to see out of the board. And I think that that's going to be a sweeping change, I hope, during the primary election.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, may we hear your response, please?
Yes, the voters are frustrated with the partisan stalemate. And we hear that time and time again. And the commissioners, the job of a public servant is not just to serve your voters. It's to serve your entire community. And there's a large amount of the community that is not being considered. Mostly because they're not old enough to vote. And it is the political grandstanding and the attention getting. And yes, the lawsuit never should have gotten to this point. And that is absolutely a power. It's flexing a muscle and saying, I can, so I will, to get attention. And what it's doing is hurting children, and they're not even voters. And isn't that the job of a public servant? Or dare I say an American hero? Aren't we supposed to be looking out for those who don't have a voice? And that's absolutely not being done right now by this board. And as a voter, that's extremely frustrating. So and I hear that cry all over the county, at schools, at churches, and I don't know how it could be missed. You would have to be very disjointed from your constituents, from your voters, and from the community to turn a deaf ear to the fact that their needs aren't being met. So yes, that, listening to what needs to be done for the community, realizing that you're going to put in long hours of hard work to serve. That's what you're doing. You're serving. You're not using it as a stepping stone. You're not using it as a power play. You're not building a name for yourself. You're there to get a job done. And that's the attitude that needs to be brought to this. And I am hoping that we can see a large change on this board. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Geissner, would you please respond?
Absolutely. I just want to say I agree with the other candidates that it's the political and partisan stalemate on the county commission level is not healthy, right? It is not a sign of a functioning, well-functioning body, government body. So I absolutely do not think that they're serving the best interest of the voters. I also want to express a little frustration that both incumbent commissioners who were invited to this forum session were not able to come and defend their side and speak to their perspective, right? Because I think we're a lot of the candidates here, we're all aligned on the county commission is not currently serving that. So I just express a little frustration there, the lack of candidates here. One example I want to give around how the interests of the voters are not being served in terms of this partisan political stalemate is this health advisory board that the county commission recently created. It sounds great in principle, a citizens advisory board to the health department, but at the end of the day, the people who were appointed to that board, there really just was no transparency or process, and it seems like they were sort of picked because they would fit a certain partisan or political mold that at least some of the county commissioners wanted. Not all the county commissioners were aligned on this practice. It did not pass uniformly to appoint these members. So I think that's an example of the county commission not representing all the voters, representing some subset through a selective practice of appointing people to a board. So I find that very frustrating, and another example of lack of transparency that is very prevalent with this current county commission and does not serve the best interests of our community. So thank you.
And thank you. Candidates, you have now completed the answers to 7 questions, and I really appreciate all of the work and effort you put into this. And you've done a terrific job. And now it's time for closing statements from each of you, and we will begin with candidate Williams.
Okay, thank you. I'm hoping to help make a change. I'm hoping to keep Livingston County in what way a commissioner can, from going down the path that we see so many of the counties around us have gone with the corruption and the overbuilding. And I want to help us. We have a great foundation here. Let's do what humans typically don't do and learn from the past. Let's look at what has worked well for this county, why this county is growing so rapidly. Why do people want to be? If we let it change and let the corruption take hold and overbuild, well, we've got that in counties all around us. So let's keep Livingston County honest, transparent, working for the voters, which is becoming more and more rare all around us. But we know how to do it. We know that it can be done, just like with speaking with the courts. What was working well in the past that isn't happening now? Let's go back to that. There's nothing wrong with going back to something that was working well and learning from those who went before us. So to that end, that's why I think a lot of us are stepping forward and offering to serve to keep the Livingston County a great place to live. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Geissner, could we have your closing statement, please?
Yes, absolutely. I first want to just thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this wonderful forum. I think an essential part of our democracy is, making sure the voters have an opportunity to hear from all the candidates that are running and understand their views on a variety of subjects, which I think you've done a really great job. So thank you so much for that. And again, I'll express some frustration that we weren't able to hear from all the candidates, right? There are some incumbent candidates who were not here. And so I think there's a little bit of a lack of information on that point. So I hope the community and the voters note that there is an absence in this forum. I am really love Livingston County. I'm really excited to be running. I think it would be such an honor to represent Livingston County at the county commission level. And I think one thing I want to point out too is there's a lot of ways that the current county commission is not representing the interests of people, but one way they're not representing sort of Livingston County is as age, right? The average age of the current commission is 65, The average age of someone in Livingston County is around 43. So I think we do need to broaden the representation on the county commission. And so I ask for your vote to have a representation for a lot of the young families that are here in Livingston County. I think they are the future of Livingston County, right? We are a changing and evolving county, and that is it's a difficult thing. But I think we do need to ensure we have those types of people represented well in the county. So, and again, I pledge to, if should I be elected, represent the county with integrity, transparency, and making sure we're listening to every single person in the community, right? Actively soliciting their feedback and their input on how the county can do better. So I humbly ask for your vote come November 5th. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And now finally, candidate Pearson, may we have your closing statement, please?
Yes, again, as with my fellow candidates, thank you so much for having this forum, hosting it, making it available to the voters. The ability to have what I have felt during this and in observation of the prior one is a very non-confrontational, nonpartisan, very neutral, open forum, and it was a pleasure to participate. So thank you for doing that. And I look forward to seeing a change on the board. I would certainly like to see myself be part of that change. But I hope the voters take advantage of their right to step up and change the trajectory of the county and change the way that the community is being served by voting in the primary and in the general election, because the fate of the county is obviously in the hands of the voters. So again, thank you so much for doing this and then publicizing it to get the information out to the public in again, what I thought was a very pleasant, non-confrontational experience. So thank you.
And thank you to all of the candidates who participated this evening. You have done a terrific job. And now Claire Donovan will now provide the closing statements for us. Claire?
Yes, thank you, Shirley. The Livingston County chapter of the League of Women Voters thanks the candidates who participated in the forum, the volunteers, and the community members who submitted the questions. We please urge others to view our forums, go to our website. We also want to encourage you to join the League of Women Voters. We would like your voice. And most importantly, it is important to please vote in the primary in August 6th election, either by absentee ballot or in person. Thank you for joining us this evening, everybody. We appreciate it.